Hello, welcome to
The Fault of Horror.
I'm Chris, and today we're going to take a deep dive into my George A. Romero collection. So I consider this collection pretty extensive. I'm going to go through here in somewhat chronological order. We'll deviate from that here and there. But of course, we got to start at the beginning. Night of the Living Dead. Not necessarily the definitive version or release of this, but just the one that I have. I do have a couple more things here I'll show you real quick. This is the colorized version of it. This does also feature the conventional black and white release of this movie as well. And then here we have the Shameless 30th Anniversary Edition. So, as many of you may know, Romero and John Russo collaborated on the original film. Once it became public domain, Russo just kind of ripped it to shreds. He filmed some additional scenes with original actors. Can't say this is really worth the time, but it's an interesting oddity. So, diehard fans may want to check it out. It's got its place in my collection, but it's definitely not the greatest release out there. And of course, there is the 1990 remake. Now, Romero was slated to direct this. He got pulled away for another project, and Tom Savini actually took the helm on this one. This is going to be an unpopular opinion here, but I actually prefer this version. I love this movie. This is amongst my favorite zombie movies of all time. This 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. It's fantastic. I do have one more here. Night of the Animated Dead. Kind of has like a little bit of a Walking Dead. Don't Dead open inside. Looks like the door. Yeah, so this is just an animated retelling of it. Pretty much beat for beat. Check out some of the screenshots there. There's another one. I actually purchased it once called Night of the Living Dead Reanimated. Not to be confused with Night of the Living Dead Reanimation. That's an entirely different thing, and it's awful. Yeah, Night of the Living Dead Reanimated, similar to this one. I bought it. It had the wrong disc in it. It had just the regular disc, so I got ripped off, so I just got rid of it. So after that, Romero directed a pair of films, Season of the Witch. This release here also has his third film, There's Always Vanilla. I know these did get a more recent re-release from Arrow, I believe. I can't say either one of these are really worth checking out. I wouldn't even waste your time. Even if you're a diehard fan, you're probably not going to get much out of these, unfortunately. But hey, we're here to celebrate the work of this genius, so let's move right along. Ooh, yes. This is amongst my favorite of his films, The Crazies. This is so good. It might as well just be one of his Dead films, but it's technically not a zombie movie. It easily could pass as one. Fantastic one. You gotta check this one out. And just to show you, there was a remake. Here I have it in this 4-pack. Zombie collection. So, right there. Yeah, it definitely resembles a zombie film closely. I've always thought about maybe just getting rid of this set and getting the individual release. I feel like that would fit in the collection a little bit better because these other 3 movies are pretty awful. But I would say definitely watch the original Crazies first. But this remake is nothing to sleep on either. It kind of depends on when you ask me which one I prefer, the remake or the original, because I really love both of them. This one was lost for a long time. They discovered it and they got a release. This did get an American release. This right here is the German one, I believe. I imported this because it was not available on DVD in the US when I first purchased this. So yeah, it was lost. It was like a, what's the term I'm looking for? Like a public announcement kind of deal. Intended to, like educational, I guess you could call it. It was preaching respecting your elders, essentially. But it's crazy because it's got Romero's style just oozing from it. Yeah, there's two versions essentially. You can watch it with an intro and an outro bookending it. I recommend watching just the conventional version without the intro. This lead actor, I forget his name, he does the intro out of character, and I think that sort of takes away from it. But I think this is really good. I think the US version too was a Shudder exclusive. It has that Shudder logo on the top. But that's one worth checking out. Okay. Ooh, another one of my favorites from Romero, Martin. Is this a vampire movie or is it not? It keeps you guessing. This is not necessarily the definitive release of it. They actually kind of fiddled with the aspect ratio on this, so some people frown on this specific release. There's a different one which I don't have that many people prefer. I think this gets the job done. I do also have the original version on Laserdisc, so I can watch both of them if I like. This one, there's also an entirely different release. I'll show you real quick here. Vampire. So this is like the European cut of the film, edited by none other than Dario Argento. So of course, not only did he re-edit the film, but he also included an original soundtrack from the band Goblin, which was just standard in Italy at that time. So yeah, it's similar but different. Essentially the same movie, but not exactly. Alright, an all-time classic here, Dawn of the Dead. I almost view this as a comedy when I watch it now. It's kind of more funny than it is scary, but it's just so iconic. And there's a lot more to unpack with this one that I will get to here. So, of course, there's the 2004 remake. Being from Wisconsin, even though it was not filmed here, I love the fact that this is set in Milwaukee. This blew me away. I thought it really did the original justice when it came out. Now that I've watched it a few more times over the years, I've got to say it gets a little boring as it goes on. I think that middle part of the movie is underwhelming. Still good though. And if you've never seen this and you enjoy the original, definitely check it out. All right, and not to be outdone here, again with Dario Argento. So in Europe, Dawn of the Dead was released as Zombie, Z-O-M-B-I, and you can see here, Dario Argento presents George A. Romero's Zombie, Dawn of the Dead. And down here it says, Rare European Cut. So, yeah, similar to what we just talked about with Vampire. Dario Argento recut the film, of course did the Goblin soundtrack once again. This blew me away. When I found this, I couldn't even believe that such a thing existed. I snagged it up right away. I will say this though, as cool as it is to have these two in the collection, there is this, which came out later, and I had to pick it up. Couldn't bring myself to get rid of the others. Hung on to those, but this has both of them in it. And there's also an extended cut with basically both versions edited together. I'm going to open this up and show you. There's some really cool extras in this box set. So you can see European cut. I don't know if you can see this from your perspective over there, but disc 4 is documentaries. Some really cool stuff on there. There's Zombie, essentially. This is both versions in one. And then over there is the US version. It does come with a booklet as well as a comic. So definitely. This is kind of pricey usually. I think it was already out of print when I first discovered it and picked it up. And it wasn't cheap back then. That was years ago. I can't imagine it's cheap now if it's out of print. If they did bring it back in print and you can get it at an affordable price, definitely you want to check out this release of the movie. This is where it's at. Excuse my furnace, it just kicked in. So yeah, we got the Zombie, and that actually spawned its own series all in itself without any involvement from Romero. So then there was Zombie 2, and then Zombie 3, and Zombie 4, Zombie 5, then there was Zombie 3, and Zombie 5, Zombie 4, Zombie 3, and Zombie 3 as well. If you know, you know. I won't get too much into detail about that, but that's a video for another day, because wow, there is a lot to unpack with that whole franchise. Okay, then we had Knight Riders. I've got to say, This one doesn't exactly do it for me. When I first picked it up, I was hoping it would be somewhat similar to New Gladiators, directed by Lucio Fulci. They're really great, another good Italian director, but this just absolutely pales in comparison. I know it has its crowd. Some people enjoy this. Tom Savini actually stars in it, as well as Ed Harris, so there's a good cast in here. It's just kind of dorky. It's a little lame, I'm sorry to say. But again, we're here to celebrate George Romero, so moving on. All right. So George Romero has had a handful of collaborations with Stephen King over the years. As far as horror anthology films are concerned, I think this is the gold standard here. I think this is the best horror anthology film ever. It's absolutely brilliant. It's a little on the long side, but you don't really notice. This one grabs a hold of me and I enjoy every moment of it. So then that one did spawn a franchise. We had Creepshow 2. I think this is an underrated one. A lot of people don't like it. Especially, there's that one with the raft. You can see a picture here if you know about that. That is so good. All in all, I think this is a solid follow-up. Obviously, it's not as good as the original. But then there was the third one, which is just downright awful. And it makes me wonder how we got here. Like, how did we go from the best of all time to this pile of junk? This is terrible. Just downright terrible. So, a lot of people sort of dismiss these sequels and instead consider Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, to be the true follow-up to Creepshow. So Romero did not direct this, but it was actually based on the television series Tales from the Dark Side. This is the complete series here. 4 seasons in total. So he directed the first episode of this. You know, like many other horror anthology TV shows, it's hit or miss. Some of the episodes are a little lame. Other ones are pretty damn good. But all in all, again, this is, for a Romero fan or just a horror fan, anthology horror fan, you gotta check this out. Definitely cool stuff. Okay, such an underrated one, Day of the Dead. The Dead series continues. And for Romero's original series of these films, this is probably my favorite, honestly. I know that's a bit of a hot take there, but yeah, this one, I think Dawn of the Dead is a little too goofy. Night of the Living Dead, the lore had not been established just yet. It kind of breaks some of the rules that were created later on. But Day of the Dead is just masterful. I love it. I love them all, don't get me wrong. Then we had the unofficial sequel here. Gosh, the fact that I even have this in my collection and that I'm speaking of it. When that came out, I assumed it was a sequel to this remake, this in name only. Man, these two, as a collector, I love picking stuff like this up, but these are some of the worst movies I have in my collection. These are both just not worth the time at all. Definitely a disservice to this masterpiece here. Monkey Shines, so underrated. So this is kind of that period in time. Romero was sort of at odds with a lot of the studios. You could see here it was MGM. And I hate to say this, I think the studios might have had a bit of a point. Some of these movies he made, it's like he refused to cut any footage. And he insisted on leaving everything in, and the movies they run a little too long. They overstay their welcome a little bit. This is so close to being, a really great film. I still like it. I enjoy it, but given the length, it's just a little too long for its own good. Not an easy feat, too, to have a monkey as one of the main characters, like a real live monkey that they had to act with. Okay, once again, Dario Argento. So this is a horror anthology film. The idea was George Romero would direct some, and Dario Argento. So the different segments broken up. Legend has it, there was a bit of a language barrier. They were having a difficult time collaborating on this, and Romero allegedly took the helm for Argento's segment of the film. So in reality, George Romero pretty much directed this entire thing. However, out of respect for Dario Argento, he decided to leave his name attached to the film as well. This is good though. You know, despite those setbacks, it's another very solid horror anthology. Now, George Romero had several acting credits to his name, the majority of which were his own movies. There's one exception though. He has a small role in Silence of the Lambs. So if you know where to look, you'll see him in there. Very brief appearance. But technically, yeah, that's part of the George Romero collection there. We got another collaboration with Stephen King, The Dark Half, based off of the novel of the same name. Another one, you know, again, major studio here, MGM. Could have probably used a little bit of trimming to make it flow a little bit better. You know, it's got that 2-hour runtime. Not a bad movie, but again, could have been better. Bruiser. So I've never met anyone that actually enjoys this. I love it. I think this is amongst the most underrated George Romero films. I think it kind of reminds me a little bit of American Psycho. I think some people will draw the comparison with The Mask, probably more so the comics as opposed to the Jim Carrey film. But this is one I find myself revisiting often enough. I actually really like this one. What's the runtime here? If I can find it, 99 minutes. So see, once he trims it down a little bit, I feel like these are just more manageable. So yeah, this to the Misfits, the Michael Graves era lineup of the Misfits did a cameo in this movie. They're actually in a club performing on stage. So there were a couple of songs that they used in the movie. But in the extra features here, there's also the Misfits music video, which is a whole thing unto itself. Because, yeah, George Romero directed that. And I also do have the VHS tape of that music video. I'm not sure entirely. You can see promotional item not to be resold. I think this might have been packaged in with action figures, because you can see here it says collect all 4 figures. Not a great music video. Michael Graves allegedly no-showed on that, so they had to have a stand-in with his face paint. So it did not turn out great. And then this technically would also be considered part of my Romero collection as well, because that music video is part of the enhanced features. Remember when that was a thing? Pop a CD into your computer and there'd be extra features on there. So that Scream music video is also on here. There's a whole legend behind that song as well. The Misfits actually recorded a song named Scream because they heard that Wes Craven was directing a movie of the same name. So they pitched it to him in hopes that he would use it as the sound or the theme song for Scream. And Wes Craven politely declined, but then George Romero swooped in and said, hey, I'll put that in my movie, so the rest is history. I can't remember. There's another song on here that was from the movie. I believe there were 2 Misfits songs. But yeah, I actually don't mind that Michael Graves era of the Misfits. I know that's like sacrilegious for the purists out there, but I do have all 4 of those releases. It's neither here nor there, but let's just take a look real quick. They had the 4 full-length releases there. Good stuff. All right, and then Land of the Dead. This is another one. This came out and I was really thrilled. There was a new installment in the Dead series. Really good, but again, a common theme here. A little too long. Yeah, so this, you know, very innovative. Like the Dead are beginning to actually evolve and sort of reestablish intelligence. And there's a lot of social commentary. I know Romero became known for that as his career went on, but you know, you have this high rise, and the rich elitists get to live comfortably in there inside this like blocked off neighborhood essentially, and then the poor are left to be poor. So it's interesting stuff. This is, I still really like this movie, and the Dead series could have gone out with a bang if he had just left it there, but unfortunately he continued on. I'm just going to show both of these. Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead. So a found footage film and essentially a zombie western, I guess you could call it. Yeah, neither of these are very good. They're the type, I rewatch them from time to time, just hoping maybe they will grow on me. And it's always a bad side to the Dimension Extreme. It's like a kiss of death. Very few of those were really noteworthy. And yeah, so it's kind of sad. He sort of fizzled out with these two. I've never met anybody that's told me they like either of these movies. So it's a shame. I do have a couple more things here. These were very late releases before George Romero passed away. Again, with Horror Anthology, we have Dead Time Stories Volume 1 and Volume 2. So there are these little segments in there where George Romero is actually sitting at a table as though he's like reading these stories from a book. I'll show you the lenticular cover here. Hopefully you can catch that. That's sort of neat. I like that. And then this first one too does have a segment directed by Tom Savini. So that's pretty darn cool. I gotta say though, it's probably the only segment in either of these movies that I thought was any good. So yeah, what a storied career George Romero had. It's a shame that his career kind of went out with that whimper, with those couple of bad movies, including these. But none of that takes away from all of the amazing stuff that he did. I gotta say too, there's a couple other things that I'm hoping to get. There's a film that was previously lost, much like The Amusement Park. I believe I could be butchering this name. I believe it's called Jankara Joe. He did with students at the University of Pittsburgh, film students actually. That was recently discovered, I think last year. Hopefully that finds a DVD release at some point. Another thing is he did a television pilot called Iron City Ass Kickers. I first heard of that and there was no release of it, so I just kind of forgot about it. And sadly, it did get a DVD release, I believe back in 2021, but it slipped under my radar and it was a limited release. So that one, if you know anyone who is selling a copy of that, please leave a comment. Let me know where to go to buy that one. That's kind of the glaring omission from my collection, Iron City Ass Kickers. Let me know if you know where I can pick up a copy of that. But that does it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you don't like it, just remember, it's the fault of horror.